up to speed, up to speed, up to speed.
Let's
Live
go.
from the apocalypse. Life is basically tomorrow's breakfast. This is state of the game. Damn right. And I am the Monkey D. Luffy of the proceedings. As you can see, that's my energy. Be king of the pirates. Everyone's saying, who is this kid? That's kind of my deal, right? That's my space within this hip hop thing. So good news today. Well, bad news is that the Tim Meadows of State of the Game is not here. K Diggy is in class. He really is every Tim Meadows character in one person. So they're lucky to have him. Now, the good news is I don't have to be smart today at all because I got all the smart people. So this is lovely. Go one at a time. The Michael Corleone of Pitchfork is with us. Now we're talking like, if you want to hear me espouse all the positive characteristics of CINEMASI, aka Dylan Green's writing, you're gonna have to listen to me on Unseen Underground, where I started ranting about all the writers that I appreciate and what their strengths are. But that was a fun deal. Dylan Green is here. Thank you so much for being here.
Bless, bro. Thank you for having me back. I guess I'm the Sanji of the ship because I be cooking sometimes, and I have a pretty mean high kick. So thank you. Like, you know, I'm blessed to talk anything Armand Hammer at any time ever. So thank you for having me back.
We're doing it, and this. By the way, our second guest here is someone who fucks me up all the time. Like out of nowhere, he recommended me an album. Folk album. We're talking about folk, and it has dominated my listening experience. The Greater Wings by Julie Byrne. You just can't ever ignore any recommendation that comes your way. In sports terms, Dash Lewis is like the best player on the team that the other team doesn't know is the best player on the team because he's too quiet. But the team knows, and the team's confident, like, oh, you're looking over here, but the action's over there. Don't worry about it. That's Dash Lewis, speaks in quiet poetry, and I love it so much. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I think this is my third time on the show. And I'm so excited to talk about this record. Again, like Dylan said, I will talk Armand Hammer to anyone for as long as they want. So yeah, I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, we've thrown lots of different angles at Armand Hammer, right? We had the episode with Elucid Who, I can't remember her name, but she's like the super fan in London who loves Backwoods and loves Armand Hammer. She's awesome.
That's Dower Candy. Shout out to her. I don't know her real name, but she's great.
She's awesome. She was awesome on the episode and very sincere and very valuable. And that was an awesome episode. Now we get to flip it and go from the critical side and really dig in here, because one of my concerns, Armand Hammer is so good and so consistent that people are kind of waving the flag for them 24/7, right? Which means it's good because you have a fan base, but the tricky part is different projects don't get delineated, you know? When Haram came out, K was confused by it, was like, I don't get this. I don't get what they're trying to do here. This is, Elucid and Billy Woods are wrapping up completely different things. What is going on? And I said to him, this is not like a calm, composed record. This is a madcap experiment that these people did not have to conduct. They went out of their way, right? So, like, don't think of it like, oh, this is obviously album of the year. Think of it like, these guys are nuts. Like, this is awesome, and you have to, the records need different context in my mind. So this album should get its own context and should get its own lens because it's real special to me. So how's everybody feeling about it? Having time to sit with it.
Man, so I've been sitting with it for a little while. Like, I heard it for the first time 2 months ago because it was sent to me early because I guess I'm special. but like they're I don't know, man. Like they just keep getting better. And it's like always different. Every single, like you said, Dan, every single Armand Hammer record is different.
Yep.
Like, you know, like, but this one's like so dissonant and like glitchy and ethereal in all these weird different ways. Like there's like I can't think of a single beat on this album that I could imagine being placed on any other Armand Hammer album. And like they sound so confident and so cynical and so hopeful and so like they're just like funny and smart and fucking like these are two of the best writers on planet Earth right now. Like I don't think that that's much of an exaggeration like at all. Like they're just they've been operating at insane levels for like almost 20 years between the two of them, almost 30 years between the two of them. So, you know, this is just I just kind of look at it as like this is the point where like even more people are gonna, you know, are coming around. Like people I've been talking to, I've been trying to get to listen to Armand Hammer since Barbarians are finally starting to come around, and that was 5 years ago. So
Right.
you know, I think this is a benchmark in a lot of ways. You know, like in terms of their exposure and just in terms of like their overall craft, they're killing it. I don't know what else to say right now. So
Yeah. No, Dash, question for you. What was the first Armand Hammer album where you realized that every Armand Hammer album was going to be a different self-contained ecosystem?
Probably Shrines.
It's exactly what I was going to say. Shrines is
Probably
exactly
Shrines.
going to be my answer. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, Woods has said it before. I think Elucid's also said it, but the like Rome and Paraffin certainly share like kind of a structural DNA kind of thing. Like they sound kind of similar. A lot of that has to do with like who they chose, the producers they chose, and I think that like how did Woods describe it? He said that Rome was the fire and Paraffin was the ashes or something like that.
Yeah.
And those feel like definitely part of a whole. Haram was insane and kind of out of left field, and and then well, I guess Shrines came before Haram, but Shrines was like when I think of Shrines, I think of Charms first of all,
Yeah.
and I've been sitting with that. You know, we've all had that record for 3 years now. I still can't figure out the rhythm of that song, and I've seen them play it live like 4 or 5 times now, and I still can't figure out the rhythm of that song. It plagues me. It haunts me.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
But yeah, and then like I think also Brass, which isn't an Armand Hammer record, but like, you know, I think it comes in that wave of incredible releases, Shrines and Haram. And yeah, I don't know. I guess like yeah, I'm gonna stick with Shrines. Yeah, Shrines was my answer for that.
Yeah. I mean, and Dylan, the interesting thing to think about the self-contained ecosystem, right? The benefit of the self-contained ecosystem is you basically, I can look at Shrines and say, Shrines is my shit. That's my jam, right? Like I was like Shrines over Haram for just a long time. Just like I'm taking Shrines, and that's just a flavor thing, right? That's my flavor, right? And that's basically the arguments your fans can have are fun. Like it's because it's just your flavors, right? Which era do you like? Do you like this? Do you like that? That's why Rock Marciano fans are always arguing, right? Because there's different eras. Guess what? Run the Jewels fans are never arguing about the best Run the Jewels album. It's two, and they know it, and they're done, right? Like they were looking for something, they were working on something, they nailed it, and they didn't really know what to do after, right? That's the story for me. But
that's so funny you say that because one is my favorite Run the Jewels album. If I had to pick out of the four,
I make sense.
I get it though.
That makes sense.
Two is probably the best one, but one's my personal favorite. I don't know that they ever made a song better than Banana Clipper.
Think of the Run the Jewels albums like Jagged Edge songs, right? Like the first album is like the Falling in Love song, and the second album is Let's Get Married. You know,
I feel it.
So that's how I think of that. But
I feel it.
I'm sure Lucid would, or I'm sure Killer Mike would be into that. So I mean, it's so yeah, the self-contained ecosystem allows for you to have different hotspots with different fan bases, and it can be tough to manage over time. You can ask Beck, right? It's tough to
Right.
manage over time, but you keep creating and you keep doing new things, and this does feel like another new horizon, because it has elements in combination that I don't think any of the other ones have.
Right. Yeah, no, definitely. Like, like especially when you think about like how the production for most of it came together. Like the fact that they like they did what a lot of people in the underground have been doing recently over the last like 5, 6, 7 years. Like people like Odyssey and Black Milk, where like they have jam sessions and then they sample the music from the jam. They had producers sample the music from the jam sessions. I don't think everybody did it, if I remember correctly, I think LP might have made his beat for the Gods Must Be Crazy separately,
Right.
but I think pretty much all the others were the result of them culling through like hours and hours of like live band footage. I was actually just talking to Child Actor about it earlier because he and I were DMing about some shit, and he had met what's it called? He and I were talking about I can't even remember the song we were talking about, but yeah, like it's just really beautiful to me, and I think that really represents what you were saying, Dan, about like how this kind of represents a new in that respect it represents like a creative horizon. And yeah, it's just dope. It sounds really cool, and you could tell they had a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah. I mean, and there's a bit of a dialectic that happens within the album where like it's full of contradictory notions pushed together to create its identity, right? Like it's an industrial kind of album with all kinds of dirty sounds, right? JPEG Mafia kind of situation, but it's also like very pop sounding to me. Like it sounds very ready for the big screen. And maybe that's Willie Green. Maybe like that's the Willie Green effect.
Yeah.
Of taking it from kind of the small screen to the big screen. But this feels like a very accessible album, even though it's so bracing in its productions and plays with bracing sounds. Does that make sense? The two?
It does. Yeah, it's bizarre because when I first heard it, to me it almost feels like a direct sequel to what they were doing on Paraffin. I see so many parallels between this and Paraffin, and that might also just be because Paraffin's my personal favorite Armand Hammer album. And
Right.
like to answer your question you asked Dash earlier, like that's the one where I realized that like every single one of these is an island that's a part of like one big, like water mass. Like that's really the best way I think I can put it. And yeah, it just works. And it's like really amazing how like you said, it's like super dissonant, but also like kind of sort of poppy. And like it's weird to call anything Armand Hammer does accessible, but and it's funny because like you listen to a song like Trauma Mike, like them releasing Trauma Mike as the first single is funny to me because like you try to play that for the average person and they're just gonna be like, shut this shit off. What am I listening to right now?
Right.
Like it's like it's like a song that like attacks the senses. Like it's an overwhelming song by design. But like you play them like, but then like following that up with Siri, I woke up asking Siri how I'm gonna die. Like that's something that's way more like audioly appealing. I just said audioly.
I love it.
Fucking yeah. But like that's just like I don't know. Like you said, it's an album full of contradictions, and I think that's great about it, and it works.
And lyrically, you talked about it, Dylan, that like there's like a bracing nihilism to this album, but it's also maybe the funniest Armand Hammer record. At the same time, it's fucking hilarious and incredibly sad. At that same time, and so like there's well, what was that? Oh wait, I'm thinking about Blocked Call, which is maybe my favorite song. You know, I can't say the full title. Dash.
Right.
Um, but no, so they on Blocked Call, he's like walking his kid across the street. He's thinking about like all the people he's lost and getting here, and it's a really kind of beautiful moment. And then he's just like, I call somebody on the phone to hear their hope drain away because they're my enemy, and I'm just like, holy shit, one out back to back,
Right. And he said that after he said that I think he said something like they're gonna ask me for money and then I'll accept the call just to hear them bleed or something. I was just like, I was like, whoever he's talking about, he hates that motherfucker. Like, I was like, that's not no normal fucking anything, Yeah.
Shades of red dust on that one.
Hit the red dust. That's great. Yeah, great call.
Big time. Yeah. Wow. Great reference too. That's awesome.
Yeah. No, what a song. Yeah. No, that's and it's just an incredible project. It flows so well, even though it's full of very disparate songs, like that are very just don't feel like they would be on the same album. As you said, Trauma Mike is overwhelming and insane. But there's one. What was the one with More Mother?
Don't Lose Your Job.
Don't Lose Your Job is like it's like breathe in, breathe out. It's very calming in a weird way. It has an inhale, exhale pace to it. That like the second half of this record breathes in a really interesting way. I just think it's really cool to have these different, the different swings and different moods, if that makes sense.
I think they kind of do that repeatedly over the album. I think that's one thing that makes it, that like kind of tempers the dissonance and the more bracing elements. I mean, they follow The Gods Must Be Crazy with Y'all Can't Stand Right Here, which is the most insane steel tip tub beat I think I've ever heard. Another one that's really hard to catch the rhythm of, and when you finally do, you're like, I've unlocked. I feel like my brain is different now. But they do. I think that kind of thing gets repeated often. Like Switchboard followed by The Key Is Under the Mat. The Key Is Under the Mat is like, that's like a jungle, like a 90s atmospheric jungle song without a jungle beat on it. It's just like, it's all sort of like smoke wisp pads and like reverb that dissipates slowly. It's like looking at fireworks in a reflection, in like a rippling reflection or something. It's very beautiful. There's a couple moments on this record that are some of the most beautiful things that they've done, and those are generally, I think, JPEG Mafia beats. There's like what's the first part of When It Doesn't Start With a Kiss, where there are parts of that, there are times when that beat almost sounds like a Postal Service song to me, which is bizarre. It's like this, like the chord progression of that JPEG Mafia uses for the first half of that beat is like wistful and sad, and it does, I don't know, it's musically, this is a very complex and interesting record that brings you to the edge and then pulls you back gently over and over and over again.
I love it. I think, and I think the forces at play here, I have never been a JPEG Mafia fan, to be fair, right? But I think the things I don't like about JPEG Mafia, Willie Green resolves. So I think having those two ends of the force together is like it's a balanced cabinet, no,
that's really intriguing because Peggy produced like 4 of the songs on this album, which there's 15 songs, so that's very close to like a quarter of the project. And like these are like if we're gonna talk about his music specifically, it reminds me so much of what he did with All My Heroes and Cornballs, because like that's probably, it's like, I feel like gentle's the wrong word, but it's the most like, it's like the least brash and confrontational music he's ever made. And like this stuff is like very pretty and very like beguiling and very like colorful, like it feels like tie-dye, like it's like in that space between like a song like Real Nigga that's just fucking like they just took like an ODB chortle sample and put drums over it. And then stuff like his cover of like PLC Scrubs that's on All My Heroes Are Cornballs, you know, like it's like those are the two, like that's the spectrum of JPEG Mafia. And I feel like all four of the beats on here, particularly Siri and the Keys Under the Mat kind of fit in the and you know, like they just, you know, like they don't I feel like Shrines was the first time that Woods and Elucid really started to explore that sound, and they leaned into it more here, you know. And like, and it's weird because like somebody, I think it was Dash mentioned Y'all Can't Stand Right Here, and like that's one of my favorite beats on the whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
Like you know, like that's like a really pretty and wonky beat, and just like of course having like the Doom vocal sample right in the center of it, which I just learned recently was Woods's idea. Like he was like, oh yeah, put the Doom sample in there. I was like, what? But like it just it makes so much sense. But it's like wonky and unsteady and like pretty. And then Jungle Pussy comes in talking about like riding someone's face until she's inspired to write. I'm like, why would I fuck him? I'm a better right. Just that yeah, like like I'm embarrassed. He's obsessed with designer. Like Jesus, she's just put her on all your albums. Like whoever's listening, if you're a musician, reach out to Jungle Pussy for a feature. Like she's gonna get you right every time. Like I've been yelling about her music for like fucking 7 years.
Yeah.
Tap in. She's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
I mean, it's the last Jungle Pussy album I was just completely enamored by, and I had it like top 15, top, you know, whatever, like of that year. I was just like totally in. It was a crowded, great year. Like she's, you know, amongst the best in the world at what she does.
yeah, you're talking about JP 5000, right? Or 3000?
Yeah, the little spiders on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because
Amazing.
that one had Foreign Exchange on it, and that's maybe I love that song.
Morning
Foreign
Rock
Exchange
was
is
on that. Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, good shit. But anyway,
No, I love. Doesn't have a lot of bad projects. Like doesn't have bad verses. Just nails it. And so in terms that should bring us. This is an album that really utilizes the world of Armand Hammer really well. I mean, we were very lucky to have Castro in the same place as Jungle Pussy. That's fantastic.
agreed. Empire Boulevard is so fire.
That's all our favorite voices in the same place. So I would like. I'll give you my top 3 guest verses or guest appearances on this album, and you tell me how you feel about yours. I would say my number 3 is Pink Sifu. I love Sifu.
Which track? Both of them, or just like in general? Because if I had to pick, I think I like the second. I like his second feature more than I like the. I mean, like the first one's great on Trauma Mike, but
yeah,
I think
lose your job. Yeah, I'm gonna go. Don't lose your job.
Yeah, the Don't Lose Your. Yeah. That's a great verse.
Yeah,
I agree. I think the his appearance on Trauma Mike is great, but it almost sounds like a sort of an announcer or something.
Yeah.
Like I don't really I don't think about him when I think about that song, but I do think about him when I think about Don't Lose Your Job.
Yeah.
He just sort of blends in with that beat in this very like it's like, you know, he's air and it's smoke or something like that.
Exactly.
He has a voice that becomes smooth music really well.
Yeah.
And so that's, I mean, that song was just so perfect for him. Number 2, Jungle Pussy on Empire Boulevard. Just that is the scent of Jungle Pussy in the air. Like you can't fucking beat that, dude. Like that.
Yeah. Do I look like a spliff to you? Like
Right.
what a way to open a verse, man. Like I knew exactly what type of time she was on when she said that shit, and that did my whole heart in. So
if you're going to guest feature on an Armand Hammer album, Castro has discussed it before, right? The way to do it is don't waste any time, right? Like you're trying to make your name in 5-10 bars if that's all you get, right? So that Jungle Pussy knew that and was just like, I'm in. I'm taking every second. My favorite is Cavalier on that Preservation beat.
Woo, yeah, that Cavalier verse is nuts.
Keep a mirror in my pocket. Ooh.
I mean, just that one line that he has in the hook, empty advice is hollow tips. Come on.
Yeah, your empty advice is hollow tips and fucking carry the place because I don't know my carry the piece because I don't know my place ass nigga. I was just like, yo,
Oof.
he and then hang on. Actually, I didn't write it down, but he tweeted it earlier and I retweeted it because I didn't want to forget it. But there's like one little passage on there. It's gonna take me a couple seconds. Here it is. Yeah, no, they beat him until his Jesus piece cried thug bloody tears. They want muzzles where sleepy dogs die in puddles there. They see my right in warp. They say my right in warped carpal tunnel. Yeah, yeah, continue, oh great niggerologist. Like anybody who knows me knows I'm a huge Spike Lee Bamboozled fan. The niggerologist line is one of my favorite line readings in a movie ever. So I heard that and just immediately jumped. I was like, this nigga gets it. Like I was there, son.
The thing about Cavalier that you have to say, like, if you look at Cav's work, right? Obviously, the albums are incredible, and I don't he's known for Private Stock, but if you dig into the other stuff, to Lemonade, to the other stuff, it's amazing. It's an amazing career. But also in terms of the guest appearances with Quelle Chris, you would have to say that Cavalier is a clutch performer who never wastes an opportunity, right? Like if you put Cavalier on a song with J. Cole and Drake, I'd be worried for them.
100%, son.
Yeah, no
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, I was very fortunate to Backwoods had a showcase in Times Square earlier over the summer, and it was and Cav was one of the performers. I'd never seen him live before. I've been a fan since I think I first heard him on Quille Chris's "Being You Is Great." I wish I could be you more often, and I've been a fan ever since then. And he's such an incredible live performer, bro. Like the energy is nuts. The just like his and he's got such a voice too. Like it's such a draw. Like you can tell he's been all over the world because like he's from New York, but spent time in New Orleans and Virginia. Like you could hear it all in his voice. Like he's got like a traveler's voice, you know. But you know, like funny you mentioned Drake. He doesn't sound like he's just like picking up styles to see what fits. Like you know, it sounds like he takes a piece of everything with him, and like I don't know, man. He's like everything about him is like worldly to me. And yeah, he's
got a magnetism that you can't teach or cultivate. It's just there. Like watching him perform is incredibly captivating. Even if he's like when I saw him open for Quelle Chris on the Death Fame tour, which I guess was about a year, almost 2 years ago now. I had never seen him play, and it was like it was at DC9, which I don't know if y'all have ever been to DC9 in Washington, DC, but it's a small stage. There's not a whole lot of room to walk around. He spent a lot of time just in the middle of the stage, and just like he would close his eyes as he rapped, and you could see him just like he disappeared. You know, it was watching him was just like it was so captivating. He's incredible. And he brings that same kind of magnetism to that song. Like the cadence, the rhythm that he uses in the hook is insane. It is like, how do you come up with that? But he does, and he pulls it off so flawlessly. He's just like he's a generational talent kind of guy.
100%.
Gins are different. That's all I was gonna say.
No, yeah, it's like it's not just a flow that's durable, like which is definitely a thing. And if you're gonna hang out with Quelle Chris, that's the best way to be. But he has an intellectual dexterity that he's in control of, but that he can kind of like and one street ball with his thoughts, you know.
That's a great way to put it too. Yeah, no, he's the you know, like people talk about book smarts versus street smarts. Like he's like right in the middle of that. You know, like there's no, you know, like he's adept at both, but he's gonna style all over you if you like. If you better keep your fucking guard up because he's just gonna bowl you over if you're not with the shits.
No, yeah, that's it. I mean, it's great. So Dash, how would you? What's your top 3 guest appearances? Do you have anybody?
I mean, they're not too much different from yours. I think. I think Cavalier kind of tops it for me. The Castro verse is insane.
Oh, good stuff.
I don't think there's not a miss at all. So it's hard to say what my favorite one is because it'll probably be different next time I listen to it. I listened to it earlier today and got really kind of enraptured by More Mothers section.
More Mothers, great.
And yeah, I don't know. I think Cav is the clear standout, but everything else is just like it's the same as everything else in this record. It's just deployed with such skill. Nothing is phoned in. Like, it's gonna be hard for me to beyond Cavalier. I think it's gonna be hard for me to pick. They're all tied.
Can you imagine if we got a full Jungle Pussy Backwoods record? Like, how fucking cool would that be?
That would be amazing, son. I'm
Insane.
so ready. Honestly, for me, I would say, I want to say my top 3 features, if I had to pick, would be probably Jungle Pussy on Y'all Can't Stand Right Here. I think that's her best verse on the project.
Yep.
I would say Cavalier's verse on Mirror in My Pocket. And I'm gonna go a little unorthodox and say that considering the amount of songs he produced, I almost want to consider JPEG Mafia a feature on this thing. Like it feels like his voice is as important to the texture and the feel of the album as anybody else's. I would put him, I don't want to say I'd put him in the same position as Willie Green, but because obviously he didn't mix and master any of it, but his sound, I feel like defines. I was talking to my man Matt Ruiz over at Pitchfork about this, and he was the first person to kind of put this in my ear at first, and I didn't hear it the first couple times, but then I really listened to the record, a couple times since, and JPEG really kind of I feel like his aesthetic kind of also kind of like Dan was saying, kind of looms over every song here, not necessarily in the sense that every producer was like, oh, what would JPEG Mafia do? But it's just kind of there, and it's crazy, once again, how holistic it all sounds. August Fanon's beat doesn't sound anything like, and once again, or not once again, we got a new Willie Green beat. He never produces anymore. So he produced. Looks like that was really cool, but it's like Willie Green, August Fanon, Child Actor got 2 beats on here, Lucid and fucking I think outside of Peggy, from a production standpoint, I think Haram is the MVP on the production front, because Haram, her 2 beats are just incredible. Trauma Mike's one of the coolest things I've heard all year. It sounds like the angriest alarm clock you've ever heard in your life. It almost reminds me of on Meshuggah's first album. That album starts with the fucking alarm clock, and it just rides in on an alarm clock, and then the fucking drums come in, and it reminds me of that, but there's no drums and there's no payoff. It's just all just being that. Listening to that song feels like being tased in the chest. Is what I'm trying to say.
When it came out, I was worried. I liked it, but I was like, if this is gonna be the whole thing, I don't know is this a 9 Inch Nails album? What's going on?
I was thinking son, my blood is up right now. Are we gonna come down?
Right. But in the flow of the album, it's amazing. It's amazing. But to the JPEG point, when that. I love JPEGs when that whole thing runs. Yeah. It's that's a big moment. To be oh shit, JPEG and Armand, it's back together again. Right. And folding JPEG back in with Kenny Siegel, with Sebastian Child Actor.
Yep.
We've got this super team that's real deep. Real deep.
Yeah, nah, bro, and I'm so happy that dumb shit passed, and whatever whatever beef they had to squash, they squashed it, because and not to harp on the Peggy beats too much, but it took me a little while, but I'm all in on him and Danny Brown's project. That to me has some of the best beats on it I've heard all year, and just his range, He made that whole album on an SP404. I have no idea what he did with the beats on the Armand Hammer album, but just his range is always really impressive to me. And there's less of these are less playful than the beats on Scaring the Hose, but I don't know, man. He's an invaluable to me. I like his raps quite a bit, but to me he's most invaluable as a producer. And I think his work on We Buy Diabetic test strips really proves just how invaluable he is as a producer to pretty much everybody. You know, like he's somebody you want to get beats from. Like,
well, and they do it the right way with this, because like JPEG is valuable because he kind of works on the extremes of sound, right?
yeah, definitely.
And you need people to do that, because then like Armand Hammer can bring that in and kind of walk it back a little bit to a place where it's like, oh, this is great, this is listenable, like in a different way. So it's you need the extremes to find where the middle is, you know?
Right, absolutely.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
So, should we go and just go bars and just enjoy that, or do you want me to go into this insane Denzel situation that I created for myself?
Oh man, you pick, bro. I'm cool with either one.
What do you think, Dash?
I kind of want to do a little bit about bars because there's
Bars.
one verse in particular that's been sticking with me.
Do it.
Yeah, no, let's go.
Woods' verse on Switchboard is like one of the most haunting things I've heard in a really long time. The first time I heard it, so I wrote a review of it for Bandcamp, and I got it about like a week and a half early, and I had to quick turnaround on it, so I had to listen to it over and over and over again in just a few days. And the first time I was listening to it, I was like washing dishes, had my noise canceling headphones on, and the door to our basement is right next to the kitchen. And as I walked past towards that door, it was the moment that Wood said, "Why the cellar door was open when it wasn't." And my door to my basement was open.
Oh no.
Turns out my cat just like popped through or whatever. But it was terrifying because in that song, he's talking about missing phone calls from his own number, and then walking down a long dark hallway, and suddenly it's the room where you identify your mother. You go home to your lover. How many times can you tell her that you love her? It's just this like really amazing depiction of grief and how grief like melts time and makes everything feel creepy and it doesn't go away. You just like, the verse pauses, the beat gets more intense, and then he starts rapping again, and his voice is more distorted. And it's like grief is always there. It's right behind you, and it's gonna come back when you least expect it. I think it's one of the most brilliant verses I've heard in a long time, and it sticks with me constantly.
Yeah. Yeah, like Woods in particular is like really succinct and really just like he's so direct when it comes to the way he talks. He's like so like abstract but like direct in the way he talks about grief, because you know, like I think about the second verse on SpongeBob a lot. Like it took me forever to realize that whole verse is him talking about not being able to afford to fly back to Zimbabwe for his mom's funeral. You know, like, and you know, he's talking about like getting the phone card so he can call his family, and everybody on the other end is like they want to ask him if he can come, but they don't want to say it. You know, and just like, but and then that leads into there's a lot of like closed loops and like repeats of bars from previous albums, or like or like parallels. You know, like the first example, I forget what song it's on, but Wood says something along the lines of like, SpongeBob more like Poseidon, I got the game tighter now, as opposed to SpongeBob, the whole operation underwater. So like he's like it's a nice little bit of him being like, this is kind of improved for a second. But then you have a Lucid, he'll like pop in and just say, he like peppers in stuff from like I Told Bessie, where where he'll say like there's one point where he says I be lying like I'm just a man, and a double portion of protection for me and my niggas, both lines from, you know, like I love it when artists like, I think I wrote an article about this for DJ Boost some years ago, just about like the idea of like lyrical breadcrumbs, and just like leaving stuff behind for your fans, for like really like eagle-eyed people to find and like connect it to older albums. And I think it's really daring for them to do that on a project that has more eyes on it than ever before, because like you already know people who've never heard of Armand Hammer and are getting the big push because of the Fat Possum deal. Like, you know, they're going to be ready to start digging, and, you know, people are going to be like, oh, he said this there, this, it's, you know, like they're such considerate and they're such considerate and thorough writers it's really it's really something. And I mean, like, we'll talk more about other bars later, but like that in particular is what kind of stuck out to me on my last couple listens. It's just they're just like, there's no one writing like this right now. You know, like I say this about a lot of rappers across a lot of different styles, but like, you know, it feels especially pertinent with these two. Like, who else is writing like this? Who else is writing on this incredible of a level? Like 20 years into a career, you know, like I can't think of anybody. Like it feels, it's, yeah, that's all I got.
You had the great Alexander Richter on your show, Real Notes. Subscribe to Real Notes, and
Gang, gang.
you, like, one of the things he said, which was really chilling, was he was basically like, me and Woods were doing this in '96.
Yeah.
And nobody cared. And we had to chill and like build ourselves to this point. Like, we had to have that time. And can you imagine if it had popped in '96? It was like, wow, it's a great point. Like,
right.
It's wild to have it this deep in the career, when annoying people have always said that hip hop's the young man's game.
Yeah, and I'm actually happy you brought that up, because I forget who I was having this conversation with. Oh, whoever, if you're listening and we had this conversation, please forgive me. I'm blanking right now. But like, I was talking to somebody recently about the whole we were talking about a specific artist, and we basically said the same thing. Like, oh, like, what if this person had popped earlier? Like, would they have had a chance to adjust the way they needed to, or like, or like, would things have burned out? This was just last night too. I can't even remember who it was, but yeah, nah, like I even got that impression when I interviewed Woods for the piece on Pitchfork I wrote. For anybody listening who doesn't know, I spent 3 months like tailing the whole fucking label, from February to basically May, and I talked to about 18 people, you know, like paramount of which being, you know, Woods and Elucid and Anton, who co-runs the label, and, you know, like, just getting his story, or like as much of his story as we could get, you know, down. Like, I think I interviewed him 7 times over the course of like 2 weeks. It was really, really intense. But like, yeah, you know, like, one of the last things he told me was, you know, like, I asked him like how it feels to kind of be at this point now where people care after you've been working at such a high level since, you know, like, history will absolve me. I mean, like, even before that, but like, you know, like, it's, and he was like, he just said, I feel vindicated, you know, like, but at the same time, it's just like, he emphasized from the beginning that he always said, like, I never wanted this to be just about me. Like, I never wanted Backwoods to be a vanity label, is basically what he told me. And you can see that in the way that not only they release their music, in the way, you know, like, how transparent they are with how people get their breach for like everything they do. But like, in the, like, this is kind of like the Fielded record that just came out. This is such a communal project, you know, like, like, you know, like, even more like I think that's one thing that makes this project so unique and cool to me, is that it really does feel like everyone, like everyone in the camp gets an all-star moment, or not everybody, but like most people who are affiliated with Backwoods get an all-star moment in some way. You know, like, I had even heard from somebody that Fatboy Sharif has vocals on a song and he wasn't even credited for it. Which is very funny. I forget which song. I'm mad I forgot, but yeah, awesome. Like, he's kind of echoing somewhere in the background. So like, for anybody listening, go see if you can spot Sharif in there. And shout out to Jersey's finest.
That's, yeah, Garden State Gargoyle. I would say so you brought up a point here about Woods and Elucid and the place they take up in our society. So you think about the flexible unreliability of time and memory, right? And he says, the choice was Kevin Samuels or Dr. Umar. Gentlemen, the choice is yours, but I assure you, Jimmy Baldwin not coming through that door, right? And the interesting thing is, you think about it, I was like, man, you're kind of that person for us. Like, you're like, Woods is not just a great rapper, but he's reliably someone who gives us new ways to think about life, with these projects. Like, Remorseless just ripped through us and like changed how we process life. You know, hip hop heads, like, we were just like, fuck,
Yeah.
I think
And
Elucid does that too, like
yes,
in
in a
an
different way.
extremely different way. But like, I was gonna to like kind of circle back to the callbacks to their other albums. It's like a form of repetition, but Elucid leans further into the repetition in his own verses more than he has in recent past. Like in it doesn't start with a kiss at the end. He says, "They said I had to hold my head." He says that twice. He says, "I felt more like myself." He says that 3 times.
Yeah.
And, carry a mirror in my pocket. He says, "Don't what is it? Don't don't invite me to your house. Ask me to remove my shoes if your floors ain't clean." Pauses and says that again. He repeats things constantly in this way to like, if you didn't hear it, here it is again. You need to let it sink in, and this is
Yeah.
something that will change you. It's that idea of like repetition is a form of change. Like the more you do something, the greater meaning it takes on. And he really leans into that on this record. It's really something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, like he's just got like the craziest sex bars you're gonna hear like this side of Cash Cobain. Like
Yep.
his motherfuckers on The Gods Must Be Crazy talking about tongue sucking under the starlight. I'm like, that's my man right there.
Well, yeah.
Like that's
I was
that's
gonna
a man after my own heart. So
I was
like
gonna quote that
he's
bar because he says, "Tongue sucking tongue under the starlight. My 6-headed bride, black on both sides."
like 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 that's one of the things I love about Elucid, like he's like both him and Woods, but him in particular, they're just like, like I wouldn't even call that silly, but it's just like really, like they're honest and funny in ways that go beyond just like a reference to a fucking rap album that only 6 people remember, or like some random Bible verse, like they're like the thing that makes Woods and Elucid such appealing writers is that like like my favorite rappers are people who can take really complex ideas and perspectives on the human condition and boil them down into like these, that's what that means type of thing, where like they're not deliberately trying to go over people's heads, but they're not holding your hand either. Like they basically give you the rule book and ask you to figure it out yourself.
There's a
And
moment,
like,
sorry to interrupt.
no, you're good.
There's a moment that I think perfectly encapsulates that. Also in The Gods Must Be Crazy. It's in the second Elucid verse when he says, "The end is a 6-letter story. Green eyes, I'm gonna see you next lifetime. Something on the stove if you hungry."
Yeah.
That just that little section right in there is like, it's beautiful. It's such a acceptance of death, and just sort of like I'm gonna be here. We're all gonna meet again. Like I'll be here whenever you leave, whenever you need me to be here. It's just this incredible like understanding of how to live in a community. I think in those just 3 bars, it's incredible.
Right.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, it's a double-headed reference to 2 Erykah Badu songs, Green Eyes and On. Like that's just like beautiful. So and then on top of that, Woods also says like, don't play on my phone unless you Badu on on landlines. Yeah, just that they're like I said, just kind of like, just like taking these cultural touchstones that are like timeless, like Erykah Badu's music, and using them to like using them to convey grief, and using them to convey like just like whatever you need to in that moment, and just like like making these abstract complex issues and thoughts like land in a way that feels relatable and like tangible and in front of your face, like
Yeah.
they're not playing as over your head as you might think they are. They're playing over your head to the point where you want to reach up and grab it.
Yep.
Like they're not trying to maintain the distance. They want you to meet them halfway.
Mhm.
And like it's work, but it's worth it.
They both figured out how to convey who they are in a single line in a really beautiful way. Like so they can go deep and go, with a story, but they can hit you right in the face. So what I was thinking of was Y'all Can't Stand Right Here, which has 2 of those situations where no tax for the rest of natural black life, right? Elucid. I mean, that's such an Elucid line.
Yeah.
That's such a fucking great Elucid line. And
Ugh.
then, show me not the ends without the means useless.
Mm.
That's Woods. Like that. So it's real thought-provoking shit. I think the line that is the most Woods to me is, if you know me, you know to keep the car running.
Yeah.
Like, that's such a fucking great Woods line. Like, yeah.
Yeah, bro. Yeah. Like just like such a succinct writer, like him in particular, you know, and like this, like one of my favorite passages to go back to Trauma Mike again. Like that whole verse is just like, I mean, like, you could say this about pretty much every Elucid, Billy Woods, and Armand Hammer song, but it feels like a bunch of them are just like little vignettes. But there's like one that always strikes me near the end of Trauma Mike, when it's right after the point where he's just like, brother drop
Project
a
every
project a
month.
month, and I had the nerve to peep it and all that shit. And then there's like this whole bit where he's just talking about, like, you know, like these people, like these people aren't dying for you, you're dying for them if you really think about it. And then there's like this whole idea of like him, like, not just like passing by a homeless person on the street and like bringing them in and giving them like a food and like a space heater, and just like any one of these bums could be Jesus, you know, like just like that whole little bit to me was, he just really brought it there in a way that's just like, like for people who live in like a big city like New York, and like in like places like Manhattan, like, like in wintertime, like the homeless and houseless have nowhere to go. And like I've seen people get kicked out of Penn Station by the cops at 3 o'clock in the morning. So like hearing people say things like that really touches me because like that's very real. You know, like he's rapping about like real things that people go through every day in a way that he's never like wagging the finger or like trying to make it seem like he's better than you, unless he needs to make it seem like he's better than you. But like most of the time, it's just like, it just feels so lived in, and like this is an actual person talking to me and not like a rapper putting on a persona. You know, like it's I hate to bandy around the term like authenticity, but it's like he just feels like a person.
Right.
It feels like this is a person rapping at me and not just like a person just like trying to sell me something.
It's
You
like he
know,
says
like
at the end of Y'all Can't Stand Right Here, when he says, I looked at the crowd, not the guillotine. Like that's an
come on now.
incredible, very, very deeply Woods bar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Woods has such powerful emotional changes, and he leads into those, and I think those are the key, because those lead him intellectually. And you get these incredible moments right against each other. Oh man. You know. Oof. Oh yeah, broke myself in half, take a stab, wrap my crown in silken rag, elucid. Yeah, there's so many good ones.
Yeah, man. I didn't even have time to write down all the bars I wanted to quote on here. Like I was just like, I was on the train and I was like, oh, I want to grab that. Oh, I want to grab.
So
shit.
we talked about the phone line, right? We talked about him basically saying, calling someone to hear the pain in their voice. The other one that is on Supermoon, where he says, if you're gonna cry in the shower and tell him who sent you.
That shit is brutal, man. That shit is brutal.
Yeah, like he goes for the gut every time. Like he's just like, like he will cut into you in 7 words or less. And that's really like, I'm always super impressed by that. There was another line where he said, I forget what song it was, but he said something about like I'm like triggering the hoteps, I'm snickering with the aunties. You know, that always gets me too, because once again, it puts me right there. I can imagine exactly what he's saying, and exactly just like, just like, it's fantastic, you know. Like,
I also love when he lets himself sound old. Like, what is it on Switchboard? Seeing my breath leaving, fingers freezing. I swear there used to be different seasons. Wow.
I swear there used to be different seasons. Is like, wow, yeah, exactly. Like, what more do you say of that than just like, wow, you know?
What rappers out there like rapping about how cold it is outside and how they wish there were different seasons? Like, it's so different. And it's, elements of like the great, one of the things we loved about Scarface and about Ghostface Killah and people like that was they were brilliant at their craft, but they were kind of emotionally unhinged in a way where they would say things that no one else in the world would say. You know? And
definitely.
Woods has that, but like to this next generational level, I think.
Yeah, and it's definitely music to grow with too. Like I'm 31, and I can imagine myself revisiting pretty much every Woods, Elucid, and Armand Hammer project, and just like finding new things to appreciate in the same way that I have with like Fonte records. Even though I think Fonte is like definitely a different kind of rapper than Woods or Elucid, but like, but you know, like as I've grown older and kind of moved beyond just like loving the minstrel show and like digging into like his old, I'm digging into more of his like settled old man shit, like the Tigalero album and No News is Good News. Like there's always just stuff in there that I find that I like, you know, like Woods and Elucid make music for like every phase of life to me. Like it's, you're never, you know, like there's always, you know, like they're like our Jay-Z. You know, like the whole thing about Jay-Z is like he has a quote for everything. You know, like there's like, you know, like there's a Billy Woods quote for everything. There's an Elucid quote for everything. Every situation you could ever experience in your life, you know, and they just so happen to do it in a way that will make your English professor mom and bro on the corner proud, you know, and like that's a hard middle ground to hit well.
Right.
So I always applaud them for that.
Yeah.
You know, like you know, like it's never pretentious. That's the thing. Like their music is not like their music is very smart, and like Dan said earlier, just like very like intelligent. You know, like that's but yeah, but like it's never pretentious. You know, like they never feel like they're trying to go over your head. It always feels like I already said this. I'm repeating myself, but I'm just always really impressed with that. Like stuff that like inspires you to get to their level, as opposed to them being like, "You'll never get here." You know, like they're it's very like collective based. It's weird. I hope that makes sense.
No, it makes sense to me. Yeah. It's
There's something about their music that, not to cut you off, Dan,
No,
I'm
go
sorry.
ahead.
There's something about their music that, like, we're talking about sort of aging with it, and there's a lot about aging on this record. I think there's a lot about aging on all their solo records that have come out in the past couple of years. And this one in particular kind of dives further into it. But the way that you kind of catch new meanings or understand new things about their lyrics kind of reminds me of like the first time that you make a different noise when you stand up, or when you look in the mirror and you see a new like crow's feet or something like that. Like these moments where you understand more that you're in this body and you are aging. And I'm struggling to tie this all together, but basically like their music to me feels like those kinds of revelations where you're like, oh, I'm a human.
right.
I'm gonna die. Okay, all right, and then you have to continue on. Like the way that their words unfold and like reveal themselves is that same way of just sort of like these moments where like you creak a little bit more. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yep. Yeah, I mean it's the human understanding, human condition. But yeah, and in that way, it's the James Baldwin thing, because James Baldwin was an incredible thinker about life and about race in America, but he was also such a human fucking being, undeniable. And
Yeah,
that's one of the things that bolstered his reputation over time.
right. You know, and yeah, and like not even in just like the cliche like I'm relatable sort of way. You know, like I think there's a, you know, like James Baldwin is somebody that Woods talks a lot about in interviews and in songs. And of course, you know, like there's a whole line on once again, song names are escaping me right now. But there's a bit where he talks about he says like, "Man, your choice is either Kevin Samuels or Dr. Umar.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, the choice is yours, but I'm sorry, Jimmy Baldwin's not walking through that door." You know, like you know,
Yep.
like once again, like a really cynical, like a really cynical, but also just kind of like implying like he's not gonna come through it. So if you want to fix this, you need to do it. You know, like where's the new James Baldwin? Like is the James Baldwin a thing that can even exist in 2023? I think it is. But you know, like these are all just like hypothetical questions that I feel like are being implied by what he says. But like, you know, like once again, like these are all very and like it's also very human to acknowledge, like there's like a lot of honesty in just acknowledging that, like, for a lot of Black men in particular, like speaking as a Black man, male presenting person, whatever, I'm non-binary, but like fucking like for a lot of people it is either Kevin Samuels or fucking Dr. Umar, and the both of them suck. But like, to me, and I'm sure to a lot of other people, but like, yeah, like hearing him kind of squish that binary down and then like kick it across the room in that way was really cool. And you mentioning James Baldwin made me think about that, so thank you.
No problem. So I can't find my Denzel list. I will try and find the full list and post it, but I can give some highlights. So this exercise was just me sitting thinking which Denzel character is Woods on each of these Armand Hammer albums.
Now I gotta hear this.
So John Creasy is Rome. Out for vengeance,
Yeah.
no question on that. This album, to me, he's Detective Keith Frazier from Inside Man.
Huh.
Mm.
Explain. Elaborate.
It's that movie. You get to see Denzel frustrated a lot, which is a lot of fun, but he's also very loose and confident in himself, and funny. And I think he does that throughout this. He finds a way to smile through the sadness in this in an interesting way. So I would go with Inside Man there. But
that's cool as hell. I never thought about it like that.
And I think with race music, it was Matt Lee Whitlock from Out of Time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just there's a fidgetiness to basically, if you listen to race music, that's like the most conventional flow that I think Woods had.
Yeah,
he was trying to fit in the same way that character was trying to fit. Shrines, he might be Lonzo from Training Day.
yeah, okay. I can see that.
It's on that vibe. Was Haram is, I'm going to go all the way back here to, so I think Paraffin might be Hurricane Carter.
Okay.
By the way,
I like that.
His solo joints, History Will Absolve Me, is the Malcolm X situation.
Yeah. I was thinking either Malcolm X or no. I was thinking either Malcolm X or John Q. But I think I like Malcolm X a little more. I think either one could work, but Malcolm X is great.
I was gonna go. I went with Haram. I went Shuttlesworth.
Oh wow, that's a deep cut.
Well, Shuttlesworth, one of my favorite sports movies of all time. Mm-hmm. Shuttlesworth is such a broken character, and He Got Game.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fascinating Denzel movie because he dresses like not an important person, and he's very broken inside, but he's also very dangerous. And that's how Woods felt on Haram to me. Maybe I had to do the Devil in the Blue Dress, and to do Easy Rollins. I think that's Paraffin, him on Paraffin. Yep.
Yeah. Well, elaborate on that for me, because I just rewatched Devil in a Blue Dress for the first time in years recently. So why do you think that?
I love that character because he's sexual. He's kind of wry, humorous. He doesn't really believe that things are good, but he always gets shocked at how bad they are.
I like it.
When he thinks he's like, I'm an old seasoned, I'm like Richard Roundtree and Shaft. I'm laughing at everybody. And then he sits with a white guy who doesn't even know things are wrong. And he's like, I fucking hate this. Fucking believe like this. Finds new ways to be pissed at the system. And I think that's, there's a roundness to that character that is Woods on Paraffin.
That's facts.
Yeah, man. It's a good deal. No, I did not use him from Philadelphia I don't think that's ever state Woods has been in. But I think I said to you guys that Manchurian Candidate was which one was that? Was that Hiding Places? I sent it to you in the chat.
I'm pretty sure you said that I was Hiding Places.
Yep. That's a good deal.
Do you have one for Maps?
Oh, Maps. Is he?
Because I have one for Maps, but I want to hear yours first.
That's right. And he was Troy Maxon on Brass.
Oh yeah.
Fences. I love that one. Give me your Maps one.
His fucking character from Flight. I don't remember his name.
Ooh, I like that.
But yeah, no, it's just like he's just like dejected and like world weary and just like
it's Whip Whitaker. Whip Whitaker.
Right, Whitaker, that's his name.
Literally.
Yeah, no, so like obviously Woods doesn't have like a crazy fucking like coke and alcohol problem like that guy does, but he's definitely like he's in the position where he like he travels often and he feels like he's seen it all, but and he kind of I feel like he finds comfort in things that he finds comfort in good and bad things, and I think like a lot of Maps is about acceptance of just like this is the way the world is. This shit's not going to change. I need to kind of define the way that I'm going to move through it. And the way he moves through it is fucking people who make him salmon croquettes on the grill and smoking crazy amounts of weed and drinking New York City tap water. Yep. So it makes sense to me,
I like that. I'm sticking with, I would say the reason I started this Denzel thing is because, and somebody, when I started using Denzel gifts, somebody was like, Woods loves Denzel gifts, uses a lot of Denzel gifts. It was like, it makes sense because Denzel has the ability to kind of create chemistry in a second.
Yeah.
He's so charismatic. You put him in the room with a character and he's developed chemistry with them in, seconds. And Woods has that same ability on songs, right? To kind of create chemistry with the listener, create chemistry with the guest star, with the beat, to attach himself wherever he goes. So I just figured that was a fun exercise, and hit me in the comments with who you would place Woods as in each album, or the flip side, which actor would Elucid be on each album, right? That career, are you going with Larry Fishburne? Are you going, where are you going to go? It's great. There's a lot of options, but so that's good. We should get into recommendation corner before you have to leave CINEMASI. Let's get some quick recommendations from you.
Totally. Oh shit. Let me think about. I mean, obviously we buy Diabetic test strips out now. Go support Backwoods every time they put a thing out. But like since we just spent the last hour and change talking about them, I'll give y'all three non Backwoods shits that I've been fucking with a lot, like recent ones. So Theravada and Zumo's Waste Management is super fucking dope. Theravada's he's slowly crawling up my list of favorites, like out right now. I love his voice. I love his perspective. He's somebody else who's like super duper like direct and plainly spoken, but also very, very funny.
Yep.
He's super dope. So I've been listening to it a lot, and I don't know if anybody else here would recommend it, but Visa's Ganger has really kind of entered my rotation the last couple weeks. And like, I liked it when I first heard it, but like, I'm really starting to like super duper get back into it. I had a friend play me a Weekend while we were in a Uber in Chicago, and I've been listening to that song like pretty much daily ever since. Like he's just I love his croak of a voice, and like somebody had tweeted once that V's constantly sounds like he's sick and he needs you to go to 7-Eleven to get him 6 things from the store. And that's kind of that's definitely his style. So I like that about him. And one more. The Lorraine James album, Gentle Confrontation. Lorraine James is this incredible fucking producer and DJ out of the UK. She makes like fun, like glitchy, Like it's like somewhere between like jungle dance, electronic techno, whatever the fuck you want to call it. It's a bunch of different things. She works with people like, I think the album has features from Kia and Richie from Injury Reserve, or Bystorm, formerly known as Injury Reserve, and
right.
you know, IDMU is a great song that I've spent many minutes and maybe even a couple hours listening to on repeat while on the bike at home. So those are my 3 recommendations.
That's great. I'm gonna give mine. I'm gonna say shout out. And by the way, let me to get into something that really pisses me off. There was a video that leaked where Kanye was calling Cardi B an industry plant and
oh my god,
tighter bars and all this stuff. And I cannot tell you, I would launch this rant. I was with my wife. This is like the thing I hate most about like Drake and Ye is their ability to trash women when they get too successful.
Yeah.
So fucking shitty to me. It's never anything worse in terms of like, you're supposed to be in this for the art. If someone's good at their art, give them that. Like,
yeah,
every single woman who's ever rapped has been told she didn't write her raps.
Right.
Sucks. But so saluting women here, maybe outside of rap, we're talking about. But this album I've been kind of listening to. It takes me a while to decide I like something. I'll secretly like something, and I secretly like "Sorry I Haven't Called" by Vagabond. It's good. I feel like it's gonna transition. I'm gonna fully like it, own it. But it's interesting, kind of between alternative but kind of R&B-ish. It's an interesting album, and I keep coming back to it, which means it's really good.
Right.
You know that. But the other one, when Cleo Soul dropped Heaven, I was like, this is pretty good. This is a good, sleepy, fun kind of R&B soul, more heartwarming. Then she dropped Gold after that. And Gold to me is the shit. Like Gold to me reminds me of like the old school R&B where it was like heavy piano and torch songs.
Right.
You know? And it was like fucking Mariah Carey dominating and just all these big, beautiful voices. And there were like flower petals on beds in the videos and stuff. There's a real sincerity to it. And there's lots of different vibes. Like Reason has a real kind of reggae bounce to it. I don't know. I'm fascinated by it. I keep coming back to it. Her voice is really beautiful. Her lyrics are really straightforward, in a way that I think could strike some people corny, but strikes me as really sincere. I'm a big fan.
I agree. I really liked Heaven a lot. Because I remember the last one she put out was called Mother, right? That's the one where she's on. I thought that album was so boring. I'm really sorry. I love Cleo Soul. That shit put me to sleep. I listened to it once and was like, I'm never coming back to this again. But Heaven is great. I still haven't heard Gold yet. I'm really excited. Miss Romantic is one of my favorite songs I've heard all year. This song is gorgeous. Like a lot of Heaven gives me like what I loved from Corinne Bailey Rae's first album. That's one of my favorite albums ever. I love, so like it just kind of gave me those vibes, and you hit everything else on the head. Her voice is gorgeous, and the arrangements and the instrumentals are great, and everything the producer Inflow does. So both Cleo and Inflow also work with Little Sims a lot, and her recent music is anyway. I could ramble about that forever, but
my third one would be Infinite Victory Loop, which Roper dropped right as I was doing my producer fantasy ranking of who I wanted to work with. Is awesome. It's good timing. And it's just a great showcase of that click. And I told Sharif he needs a full album with YL. Like,
oh man,
they work too well together. It needs to happen. Their best work is with each other. It's so gotta love it. And Pootie also kills it. Pootie's great on it.
I love Pootie's voice. Most of those artists, except for YL and Akai, they're all from Jersey. So like shout out Roper, shout out Sharif, shout out Pootie. That's a great project. They recorded all of that before the pandemic. They recorded all of that in 2020. So like this is them from 3 fucking years ago. You know, so they're all on different time with that shit. It's a
On
great project.
Bandcamp, Pootie has an album called P from 2019 that is all produced by Roper. That's really fucking dope.
Man, yeah, no, I gotta tap in.
Gotta check that out. So Dash, what are you bumping?
Well, first of all, there's the first one that I've been super into lately is from 2021, but it's this band New Age Doom. They're like I don't know, there's a metal adjacent band from Vancouver, but they made this record with Lee Scratch Perry before he died, called Lee Scratch Perry's Guide to the Universe. And it's this like kind of psychedelic doom metal take on dub with Lee Perry just like giving advice about life over top of it.
Crazy.
It's amazing. It's really blowing my mind.
That sounds incredible.
It's amazing. They don't really like, they don't try to recreate dub sonics, but they do a good job of like embodying them. And there's like a flute player. I don't know. It's a crazy record. I can't recommend it enough. It's take some time, go for a walk, imbibe in something mind expanding. It'll get you there.
That's tough. Send that to me. I want to hear that.
I will. Sleep Sinatra and Televangel, Incorruptible Saints. I think that record is amazing. I think it's one of Sleep's best projects. I think Televangel's like kind of having a moment, and it's nice to see him. You know, his sound isn't the cloud rap thing that he was doing with Blue Sky Black Death, but it has shades of it, and it is that things that I tend to overuse the word psychedelic, but it does have that kind of like glowing center that you find in a lot of that kind of music. Sleep is just like a surgeon. There's a great AJ Suede performance on that record too. It's incredible.
And Milk is so good. I told Milk and Sleep work together really well.
Yeah.
Because Milk is so funny and loose, and Sleep, I call Sleep the rap game Magneto. Like he has that kind of like militant state of mind that really draws you in and is just really smart. And so him with Milk is really cool. I think
he's got a really interesting like philosophical outlook. He reads a lot of different philosophy. He gravitates, or at least has gravitated more towards Jungian philosophy in the past, but like he's just he's got a really interesting mind, and he's an incredible writer. And I just love hearing Sleep Sinatra rap. I'm gonna do 4. I'm sorry.
Do it.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
The other record that I think that came out on September 29th that is hopefully not getting overshadowed is Def C and Messiah Music's The Golem of Brooklyn soundtrack.
That shit is heavy, son. Heavy.
Unbelievable. Like I haven't read the book yet. The book just arrived a couple days ago, and I can't wait to read it because I'll get a little bit more of what Def C is writing. But talk about incredible writing. Def C is one of the best writers in the game right now, and he and Messiah Music work so well together. It's a really great follow-up to what they did on Trapdoor, but it is immersive, it's funny, it's brutal, it's sad. He has there's a political dressing down of white Jews in that record. And there's like there's some really kind of like harsh self-effacing shit in there. It's a tough record. In every sense of the word tough, but it's an unbelievable piece of work, and I can't recommend it enough. Another one, the final one is Zumo and Asir put out a record I hope I'm pronouncing that name right, Asir, 2 A's. Put out that record I think in like March or April or something. Maybe it was later than that, maybe it was August, but it's a gorgeous, super low-key, just real day in the life kind of slice thing. The Zumo beats are some of his best.
Is this The Policy?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it is really, really mellow. I've been going back to it constantly without even thinking about it, just putting it on when I ride my bike or like I'm walking around or something. It's an excellent piece of like mood music that I think more people should be listening to.
Yeah. That's awesome. The
That's fire. Yeah, no, any excuse I get to listen to more Zumo, I'm in. So
Yeah.
Zumo's fun. I left a very heartfelt Bandcamp comment on the Golem of Brooklyn. It's my craziest first listen of the year because, you know, being Jewish, just these are things we talked about our whole life, you know.
right.
Like some people say like, oh, this album's gonna be my whole personality for the next few months. I'm like, this album has been my personality my whole life
Man.
before it came out. Like,
Right.
this is how we were raised, dog. Like, so I can't say enough about it.
Yeah, no, that Confederate flags in Tel Aviv song is
Yeah.
nuts. Like the fact that he made a song like that at this particular time in this particular way is really cool to me. I've actually been meaning to yeah. I gotta go listen to it more, but you know, like to echo what Dash said, yeah, him and Messiah music are great. Trapdoor is a classic. Def C is amazing.
Yeah.
Like he's having a moment too.
Yeah.
And you know, like he you know, like I'm still listening to the Def Prez album. Him, Crash Prez, and Knows the Time are amazing. That's family. And before I forget, also Tel Aviv and AJ Suede's album, Parthy and Shots is one of my favorite things I've heard this year too. So,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Parthy and Shots is nuts.
Absolutely. Yeah, I just think it's really good to have all these people peaking and doing their best work and working together, working for each other's success. You know,
right.
The Golem of Brooklyn, just the last thing on that, the Confederate flags in Tel Aviv, that is the most Jewish moment of the album. Like, how could you have a Jewish rap album that doesn't end calling out Jewish people? That's just what that just makes sense. This is what we do. Like, we're yelling at each other in synagogue about policies in Israel and shit. Like, it's what life is here. And like, I remember hearing like friends of mine that were like Catholic or something being like, we can't really say that in church. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I'm
right.
not telling everybody I don't believe in God. And they're like, he's a nice kid. I like that. Like,
yeah, no, that's why I stopped going to church, son.
Right.
I wasn't Catholic, but like we were, fuck the church. Sorry.
But yeah, thank you for being here. I know Dylan has places to be, you know, and Dash Lewis is just gonna play the ukulele and live his life. So I want to thank you so much for this. This was so awesome. You know, hopefully this Denzel comp is what gets me on Real Notes. We'll see.
Hey man. Yeah, no, I want to try to make that happen before the end of the year. And yeah, Dan, thank you again. I think this is maybe like my third or fourth time being on here, and it's always a pleasure. Like, I love your passion and your reference points and just like the way you see the world. And Dash, same to you. You know, like we finally got to link in Chicago over the summer, and that was beautiful. I just, you know, like I said, I'm just always here to, you know, like I'm very pro backwoods. So, you know, like I'm always here to sound the alarm whenever it needs to be done. So yeah, I appreciate the platform to do it.
Yeah,
Thanks for having me as well. It's such a pleasure to talk to both of y'all. It's been wonderful.
Support music journalism. Support.
Yes, please. Please.
What will tomorrow